I'd just like to recognize President number 10 of Abasa and the current Auditor General of South Africa, Meta Kani Maluleke, the inspirer of public confidence. Singabako, ma'am. Thank you for being here with us. I would like to hand over the mic now to Mr. Sbusi Sonduna, who is the chairperson of the Abasa Business Forum and who will be facilitating our fourth panel entitled The Business of Enterprise Development. Thank you.
Just testing the mic. Okay, I'm audible. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Usbusi Sonduna. I am the chair of the Business Forum, but today I'm not standing as the chair of the forum. I'm here to facilitate a panel discussion on a topic that I think corporate South Africa, both private and public sector, should be interested in. And why? Why am I saying this? The topic of enterprise development has been introduced to South Africa for quite some time. But during this time, a time, by the way, that has been characterized by changes to various legislation meant to promote the meaningful participation of black people and black businesses in the South African economy. Yet, even after this time, the question still remains, have we succeeded in creating formidable and sustainable black, small, and medium-sized businesses? So during this time, what lessons have we learned? What are the success stories? What are the challenges that we have encountered? Has enterprise development been embraced in both the public and the private sector? And has the focus been on the critical issues that small businesses actually need? Has there been education and awareness? Does a small business know that the RED programs then can assist with the promotion of their businesses? Now, to unpack this, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a panel that I'd like to introduce, and I'd like to invite my panel up on stage. I've got Nelly Swart, who is the Chief Impact Officer at SAPRO. I have got Nomatamsanga Ashom, who is the Director at RSM South Africa Incorporated, CEO actually, my apologies. I've got Pat Mokhatle, the Director of Business Development at BDO South Africa. And I've got Polani Sokomela, CFO of Auditor General South Africa. Please can we welcome our panel on stage.
Where should I sit here? Sit here. Sit in the middle and I'll move on up. You're the beautiful lady.
Right. I'm going to kick off because I think we've got the Auditor General of South Africa here in our midst. So I know she's out of time. She's always busy. So I'm going to start kicking off with the Auditor General so that any responses, she is here. So just before I came in here, I know the Auditor General runs an enterprise development program. There's also a program called the CWC program. Can we just get a distinction between the two or clarification? Because there's a little bit of confusion, and then I'll delve into the different aspects.
Absolutely. No, thank you very much. And I want to express my sincere appreciation for this opportunity to be here. And I'm very happy that the AG as well is here because she is the one that started the ESD when she was the DAG about 9 years ago or so. So maybe let me just start at a strategic level because I think it's very important that we understand how we are. We, as an audit office, we are in a second year of implementing our corporate strategy. It's called Culture Shift Strategy. And that strategy is very important, and the aspirations that are shared in that strategy is that we want to have a strong, more direct and consistent impact on improving the lived reality of South Africans. And we want to do that by sustainably and efficiently shifting the public sector culture through insights, influence, and enforcement. So that is a very critical aspect of it. And our business model as an audit office is that of not resourcing ourselves to full capacity, because we've got two cycles that we audit, major cycles. We call it a PFMA cycle, and then also have an MFMA cycle. The PFMA cycle is where we audit the national government, provincial departments, national public entities, etc. And then the MFMA, where we're auditing municipalities. So where then CWC comes in is where, during the peak, where we're actually now chasing then those deadlines and those timelines, it's where then we would outsource some of the work to the private firms. You know, because the audit office has got a lot of work to do, so we can't do this work on our own. So then leveraging then on the private sector, especially the private audit firms, then becomes very critical. So when we then outsource this work, that's where then the strategy of transformation then comes in, is to say, how then do we use then this opportunity that we have to enhance the transformation of the country as well through then the procurement. Hence then we have what is called CWC. CWC, we call it CWC, but it's basically contract work creditors, basically, because we say, okay, we need to actually get contractors to come and help us. We spend on average, I think for the past 3-4 years on average, we spend about 900 million a year on CWC. So that is a big expenditure that we spend on a yearly basis. So we need then to ensure then that this expenditure, we use it meaningfully, but also to drive the transformation agenda of the country as well. So that's basically where it is. And then through then this CWC process, there is also, we saw then that's where the AG then, when she was the AG, came in to say, there's an opportunity because we had stringent requirements, you know, for people, for the firms as well to participate into this CWC process. So we said, let's find a way then to say, how can we actually assist the emerging firms or the new firms that want to get into the space, especially to establish, to create a market, to give them access to the market. Hence, then the ESD then was formulated. You know, so I think that is at a high level. That is basically then the difference between the two, is to say, yes, we've got this established database for the firms that are established, but through the ESD program, we actually then say, let's help then the guys that, our requirements that we have, they are not able to actually get into that, to say, how can we help them? For an example, one of the stringent requirements is to say you need to register with SAICA, with IRPA, you need maybe to have trainees, maybe let's say a number of trainees, and then for SAICA to accredit you, need to say you need to have work exposure and all of those things. So that's basically then we assist them to ensure then that we give them, let's say we're going to give them an offer letter to say we're going to give you so much work, and then SAICA then can be able then to accredit them and actually assist them with that. So we've been doing that now for 8 years. We started about 3 entities or so. I think we are sitting now over 20 entities now that are in the ESD program that we have also.
Thank you for that. So, Mike, okay. So thank you for that. So you are saying the CWC program will still continue for those small black firms that would otherwise not be able to qualify to get into it. They may undergo through this ED program, and in that way, they will be able to qualify. So who qualifies to be part of this ED program?
Yeah.
Do the Big Four qualify to be part of this ED program? Or is it mainly targeted at a group that is pretty much marginalized from the economy?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a good question. The CWC program, I think I've explained in terms of the strategic importance of it, because we need the right people to come and help us to execute the mandate of the audit office, which is a very important mandate that we are driving, you know. So we need to ensure then that the people that we are working on in the database, you know, are of the right caliber of people. But then without reducing the bar, if I can put it like that, through the ESD program, the people then that are marginalized, your small firms, the people also that want to create audit firms, etc., we then give them an opportunity to actually, how can we assist them so that they can actually form part of this database. So we have a window that we open to say, we open a window. For example, I think we open the window now where we say people that wants to apply for the ESD database, they can come and apply. There's an application that they do. There's a due diligence that we perform. And then we actually assist them. There's a hand-holding as well that happens until they graduate, you know, to say you are on full-time database now. You can actually assist yourself. So it's a process, it's a hand-holding process then that we actually do. You know, so the ESD is actually focusing then on those historically disadvantaged professionals, you know, that wants to get access to the market.
Where's the advert? Where can I get that? Where can I see the advert?
You can just talk to me, then we'll just sort it out. You know, I don't want to say it's in the newspaper, it's in the Star, and all of those things, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
No, for now, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Pat, you've heard from a public sector perspective. Tell us from a private sector perspective. Tell us what BDO, what their plans are regards to ED.
I mean, first and foremost, we don't look at it as enterprise development. We look at it as a partnership. And I think once you say it's a tick box, I want a tick box, I'm looking for a black firm to empower, you then have a overall problem because you just tick a box and you move on. We're looking at it completely differently and we're saying, who do we want to get into this marriage with? And my CEO always says, it's not a marriage of convenience, it's a partnership. You're actually saying, I want to partner and I want to go on a journey with this specific firm. And the problem that we've noted is, you know, a lot of the firms, what they do, they'll say, okay, Spoo, give me CVs, I'll put in a proposal, and if we win, Bob's your uncle. But that's not the process. You should be going with me to the meeting, meeting with those counterparts, meeting with the board, meeting with the non-execs, and saying, this is the collaboration. This is the partner you'll be receiving from Spoo Inc., and this is the partner you're going to be receiving from BDO. Because if we do not do it that way, all that happens, you give me trainees and you're just body shopping. And we cannot have body shops. Then open a labor broker firm, I'll come get staff from you. Yeah. So what we are building a true marriage, and we are saying, when we partner, you're part and parcel of it. Which then means we want to see your firm grow from being an EME to a QSE and being a big company. That is what we need. We need to have a mindset of entrepreneurship to say, how do you grow a business? Because if you look at the market at the moment, who's the competitors? We've gone through a cycle of mandatory audit firm rotation. And I can tell you with stats, all the companies just rotated amongst the big four. With BDO coming to the table, we thought, yes, we've got a formidable brand to compete. And they said, but the non-execs are not ready yet. So if the non-execs are not ready for a multinational South African company that's doing 1.8 billion, what will they say when Spoo walks in and says, I want to audit a JSE listed? So it has to be done correctly, and hence we've gone, I mean, we're on version 8 with the Business Forum and our Exco, going through the entire business to understand the culture and the mindset to say, when we bring on a partner, not an ED partner, a partner, we're bringing on a firm that's going forward with us. This person did articles at a Deloitte, at a EY, they are credible. They're not just because today, I'm at BDO today, tomorrow I leave, I open Pat Inc. All of a sudden I've not done BD for 9 years. It's impossible. I've still got the same skill set. You're taking the same person, just in a different entity. So we need to respect each other. So we had to workshop it through their business to say, when we bring on a firm, you're bringing on a powerhouse. They bring on critical skills that you might not have. They've audited multinationals under another brand. They've got the skill set.
So, Namatam Sanga, what are the views from an ED beneficiary perspective? What are your experiences? Have these ED programs been impactful? Have they been sustainable? How can they be streamlined to be more effective and more inclusive?
The way Polani is looking at me is as if he's expecting a certain answer. So I'm a storyteller. So when I was growing up, I think a lot of us either grew up in townships or in the rural areas. One of the things that was very visible was the fact that when somebody died, the business died with them. And for me, I never understood why. And the story was always, I'm sorry, I don't know the English word, but where I come from, it was always utwele. Because once they die, the business is gone. But as I grew up and being blessed to have parents who were very entrepreneurial, well-traveled and educated, one of the things that I learned was the importance of systems, processes, training, and a good business model. And to me, that is a sustainable business. Not whose CEO, not whose name is on the letterhead, but what is actually happening in the business. What I have seen over the past, I don't know how many years in the profession, is more a culture of dependency that gets created via ESD programs and not a culture of a sustainable development program. And Pat touched on this very well. For these programs to be successful, we need to collaborate, not cooperate. Cooperation is very different from collaborating. Because when we're collaborating, we have a shared objective and a shared vision. And that shared objective and vision should be something that is bigger than ourselves. We live in a country that has a very, very high unemployment rate. And our responsibilities aligned with the National Development Plan should be to provide employment, to build the necessary skills that we need for the country, and also to support innovation. Now, if we're just cooperating, that is not going to work. And yes, predominantly, let us be honest, it's always been about we need 20% to go to a black firm. Do you know anyone? And we send CVs. And it ends up, from the small firm perspective, it ends up being quick money that I can get. I need money to pay salaries. And it ends there. There is no sustainability in terms of, okay, we in this partnership, we're collaborating, we have a shared vision, and the shared vision is to make South Africa Inc. great, to provide employment, to build sustainable businesses. What does that actually mean? And are we investing in the right areas? Because if that is what we are doing, then we take time to understand each other's vision, challenges, opportunities, and goals. We take time to invest in training. We take time to build systems and processes that are required to sustain the businesses. And we take time to develop in the actual business relationships. Because again, like Pat said, you walk in, even as a medium-sized, predominantly white firm, brand value is very important. So you're not going to get that opportunity to sit at the table because, oh, we trust so-and-so who's been in business for longer than you. The CFO is probably alumni, and so is the CEO, and all of that. But if we are collaborating and we're building this relationship and we're building trust, right? Because what is trust really? Trust is a relationship with the unknown. And at every point in time, we need to start creating those trust loops with each other. So I might not have worked with Polani, but I need to trust that Polani and I have a shared vision. And that shared vision is what we work with. So from my perspective, I think for this to work, we can't only look at what is the other side giving me in terms of work, in terms of budget, but what am I also investing in? And it cannot be money. My end goal as an ESD partner cannot be money, it needs to be bigger than that. As much as the end goal for the bigger entity cannot just be compliance, but it actually needs to be something that is the right thing to do. I'll leave it there for now.
Sure. But I am going to come back and ask you, how do you propose? What are the practical steps? Or what are the recommendations or some of the options that can be explored in creating a more sustainable ED program rather than the dependent model? Do you have any recommendations?
Oh, you're coming back to me now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so again, we go to something that Pat just spoke about now, and that's the cross-pollination of skills. I can't just give you trainees. I need to be involved. I understand in our business there's also a lot of regulation that comes with that. There's also a whole lot of risk elements that comes with it. So very often you'll find that people are reluctant in getting you involved because there's a higher power that they need to answer to. So for example, if you have a dual listed entity, South Africa, US, let's use that, there's PCOAB that you still need to be accountable for in the US, and that comes with its own risk element. Same with the AG. If you are doing CWC work, you're doing ESD work, you still have quality requirements that you need to adhere to. So that is where the training element comes in. So just to give you an example, one of our ESD partners, we were implementing the new quality standards now required for auditing. And we actually walked the journey with them to say, listen, it might not be money that we're giving you, but we know this is important and critical for you to be able to do your work. So that cross-pollination of skill and just giving beyond money and giving your time and actually working on the things that are important, assisting the businesses with regards to processes and systems. How do we actually get these things done? What works best in industry? Do we go hybrid? Small things like employee wellness, what is that? Investing in your... No. Why? I think the allocation of resources and time is also key. And we've been blessed to work with one of the big four who's actually made an effort to do that, to say, listen, this goes beyond just us giving you a certain portion of our work, but let's get involved. And also, looking at the bigger ecosystem, the involvement of the audit committees in our profession, the involvement of people who are charged with governance in terms of what is their own vision when it comes to empowering smaller businesses. I think for me, that is what I think works best. Training, assisting with skills development, with processes, with systems, especially, and I'm very happy that there was a lot of talk around technology. Technology is expensive. It is very expensive, but that needs to be about 15% of your investment budget, not to keep the systems going, just to buy. And it's very important. So also assisting in that area, how do we get these things going? Because that is the only way that is going to work. Clients have become sophisticated. Markets have become sophisticated. You can have 20%, but if you do not have the technological competency to meet what is happening in the world out there, we are not going to build sustainable black businesses.
Thank you for that. Can my mic be activated or is it not? Wow, that is, you've actually, so those charged with governance, those that are sitting around the room also have a role to play. So it's not just the beneficiaries, not just, but just generally the whole ecosystem. We all have a role to play in ensuring that everybody is included. In the private sector, we've got international players such as SAPRO, who have entered the South African market in terms of capacitating small black-owned firms. SAPRO, how do you go about doing this?
I don't know what I did wrong in the last 5 minutes before the discussion because I was supposed to talk first and now I'm last. So how do I now add value? Exactly. It's probably because I pushed the beautiful lady to the middle of the podium. I don't know, something went wrong. Anyway, once again, thank you for having us. So I can just echo what everybody said, but I'll make it a little bit more SAPRO specific in terms of our strategy. But there are one or two things that I think, generic issues that I think it's quite important to consider. Very often in these kind of forums, we talk about a topic as opposed to with the people that's actually affected in the process and get a real in-depth understanding of the real challenges at play. Because there's a whole ecosystem should work in tandem, adding value in terms of creating successful businesses for the future. And I think it's quite important that we open the debate and invite the so-called outsiders, the affected parties to become insiders, that we have a real meaningful understanding of the whole ecosystem. And then from a SAPRO perspective, when we start debating these issues, is to try and, once we've understand the ecosystem, is to say, what can our unique contribution be in this value system? And we said, let's focus on where we can make a difference. And then somebody, I think I heard it this morning in one of the discussions, we must show up, we must participate, but we must also own up at the end of the day and make a true, meaningful contribution. So for me, that's, I think, what we would like to try and do is to engage firms where we believe we can make a difference, understanding the true needs, and see how we can assist and participate in that.
Okay. Give us an example of.
Once you've found the tender in the newspaper that you asked earlier, where do you see the tender? You then, obviously one then needs to look at what does it take to deliver value to the AG's office. We talked about systems, we talked about processes, we talked about digitization, we talked about all kinds of alignments. Our game is the people game. We've got access to great quality talent very often, and that's a sin for a country that's South Africa. If you look at our state of governance in the country, that we've got latent capacity from time to time in our own environment. And we have to make sure that that latent capacity is optimally deployed, and that it's deployed within an environment where we can make a contribution to create sustainability, as we've just heard before. And we would partner with firms to see, smaller entrepreneurial firms, is to say, how can we capacitate you within our area of core expertise? We don't necessarily have the systems, the processes, and the tech, but we definitely have access to capital and access to people.
Right. Pat, so the version 8 of what the BDO and the Business Forum are going to enter into, it's the first of its kind, right? Yeah. So Abasa came and made sure that this happens with you guys, right?
Yeah.
Right. So we are playing that advocacy role where we can, and I think the likes of BDO are assisting us as the Business Forum into making sure that we provide value to our members, and I'm hoping that we'll attract more members to the forum because most small businesses don't join because they think that they're not going to get any value. And initiatives such as these demonstrate that we can provide value to our members. So I want to know now, are there any success stories? Firstly, is there a measuring tool to measure success? or we don't know, it's ad hoc. I mean, do we know how many companies have transitioned from being an EME to a QSE? How many companies have increased their revenue? How many have been sustainable? Because what I've seen is when they say something is hot, utang umlilo wamaphepha. What that means is that you are lighting a fire, but based on paper, and then it goes woof, and then it goes poof. And that's what we've been seeing with our small black businesses. To say we've got the small black firms or medium-sized firms, and then a year or two down the line, they've gone down because of the dependency model. We've got a couple that if the AG drops them, they cannot survive. So we cannot say that was a successful model because we don't see them anymore. So is there a measuring tool? Yes or no, or we don't know. What should be the measuring tool? Are there any success stories that have been sustainable? Anybody on the panel?
Look, maybe to give it a stab, if we're going to Cape Town, and that's the destination, and everyone knows we're going to Cape Town, if you off-ramp and you take the N3, you're going to Durban, you're not going to reach the same conclusion. So first and foremost, what's the objective? Where are we going? What's the alpha? And many a times we don't have that alpha because everyone's just waiting for that CWC letter from the AG, and that's it. So I've got massive going concern risk. That goes away, I don't have a business. But if you've got an alpha and you've got a delta, and you say, this is the timeline, and you spoke about our uniqueness of our program that we're building, the program in itself is saying, what does it look like in 2 years' time? What does it look like in 3 years' time? As that business grows from being an EME, QSE, and a big business, who are they taking up as well? Because there's no point in this business growing, but you're not actually passing it back. We need to grow it going forward. Now you ask about a measure, and a measure would be if we're saying, well, that's the delta, we want to actually create a company that is as big as what we call the big five. We want another BDO. Then there has to be actual milestones to say, by year 5, you need to be at this point. By year 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you need to be at this point. But if we backtrack a bit, how BDO was formed, Binder, Dekker, and Otto, it was 3 guys that came together and created a company. What we're also not doing, and I've mentioned this at the business forum before, is to say you've got all these companies that come together and it's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Why are we not coming together to create the next SNG? Why are we not coming together and saying, well, now we're a formidable force.
Because it's been done before.
We've got the AG here, but then learn from why are the other firms working. At BDO, we've got 140 partners. How's it possible that 140 people get along on a day-to-day basis and ensure that a firm goes forward? For you to scale, you need to have the skill set coming together and saying, how do we take it forward? If we go back to the AG and say, there's 15 of us, we're formidable partners. We don't want 10 million, we want 300 million, and we can do the job. It's a different ballgame. So to scale, you also need the skill set, but you also need to say, where are we going? What's the plan? If I want to just create a Pat Inc. and I'm alone, then guess what? I'm going to be riding this storm every week, one man. But if I do it collectively, and then we say, okay, well, we need 5 more players in the firms to compete, then that becomes the delta.
I know we always look at the bigger firm as the baddie. What experiences have you experienced from the smaller firms, maybe to AG, just in terms of their conduct? Because my issue is with small black firms, 1 or 2 become pilot programs, and then bad things that happen during that pilot phase, it affects the rest of the pipeline of other black firms. And we don't hold each other accountable as small black businesses, because we should call one of our own to say, if you go into this program, you do not mess it up, because you're going to mess it up for the rest of us. Have there been any bad apples, and what are your suggestions in dealing with bad apples so that the vision is not distorted because of a few bad apples?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, and I like the discussions, especially on the issue of this thing is not about it's not supposed to be looked at as a money-making scheme. Yes, money is important, and it's a fuel, you understand what I'm saying, to ensure then that there's, there's prosperity. But then I think the key issue is that there are success stories, but there are stories as well that are not very, very positive as well. And I think some of the colleagues have touched on them. For an example, when you look at the ESD program, the ESD programs are there to ensure then that you actually open the door for someone to say, okay, I'm opening the door. Once then you are actually inside, you need then to say, okay, how then do I actually take advantage of the market, that I've been struggling to actually get inside with. And I think the issue of value propositions, to say what is your value proposition exactly? How are you going to create value for your stakeholders? Then it's something that is very important. What is your strategy? So we've seen some of the firms as well struggling to actually execute that strategy, in terms of then how then do we execute the strategy. And then we've seen them as well, once you get them, they get into the ESD, you find that there's this high dependency as well. There's no diversification of revenue, because you got to diversify your revenue streams and grow. The growth is very, very important. So some of them that were not that successful is exactly that issue to say, if, for example, because on our side, we're driving cost optimization strategies as well, because we got to ensure that each and every rand that we spend, there is value out of it. So it's a very critical aspect then to say how then are the firms as well actually dealing with that, with those issues. The issue of one of the challenges that we see these small firms as well becoming more as well. It talks to what Pat is saying as well. We are having small little firms, that are all over the show, And when you engage with them, you find that they are content. They're fine. As long as they get an allocation from the AG of 2 million or 3 million, whatever the case might be, they are fine with that. But that is not sustainable, because if now we are saying we are changing course or changing ways, then it becomes an issue, So I think Abasa, one of the key issues that Abasa maybe really need to look into this thing is to say, how then do we ensure then that we consolidate as well? We consolidate exactly what Pat is saying, to say, if, for example, you go then to the audit office and say, you know what, we are a firm now of 50 partners and stuff like that, I don't think that there's anyone that would say, I cannot trust these people, because you've got the human resource muscle, but also on the other side, you've got the financial muscle to invest, because you need to invest in your resources and your capabilities as well in terms of how you can deal with it. So I think that is then the key issue that I think the Abasa maybe also needs to look into, to say, how then do we deal with that? How do you create a platform as well, because Abasa is a very important organization. How do you create a platform of, even if, for example, they are not necessarily consolidated, but it's like some sort of a consortium, something, all of us are working together. This is how we're actually going to work with you, for example, as an audit office. So things like that, and I think there's more value that can be derived on that, and more growth as well. And even going to the private sector, I don't think that you will not get opportunities there. Yeah.
Can I just come in there? Interestingly enough, I'm reading the Umam Nonkulego Kobodo's book, Awakened. And this concept of consortium, concept of a big black firm, it's nothing new. I was reading that chapter where she actually speaks about this, and I'm saying I'm shocked we are still dealing with the same issues in 2023 that were issues in 1997. So again, coming back to the people who are affected by these ESD programs, CWC, whatever it is, what is it that we are not getting right? Now, from a regulatory perspective, sometimes we think it's just easy to get people together and then now we're going to diversify revenue. It's not that easy, right? There's things that we need to jump through. There's certain clients you cannot do because you don't have representation abroad, and, right? And She speaks in her book about how she built a diversified firm that was for the diversified South Africa, but she got backlash, right? And that is BDO. BDO is a diversified firm with diversified ideas, with diversified minds, and sometimes we talk diversification and we limit it to just gender or color. So those are the things that we need to look at if we want to start building sustainable businesses and say, what is it that we need diversity in so that these businesses work? But for us as well, black business owners, black business, especially in our profession, why are we still having the same discussions that we had in the 90s?
Yeah.
And when we start being honest about that, I think then we can start measuring the successes of whatever initiatives that we are coming up with.
Maybe I can add something because my mind and I like to use analogies when I speak. But somebody much smarter than me and long before me made a comment is to say, if you want to go fast, you go alone, and if you want to go far, you go together. And I think there's a hell of a lot that we can learn from that simple philosophy, because if we don't have an abundance mentality, I don't think we will ever be able to unlock the full value in the ecosystem that we participate in. And over time, I think we will just marginalize ourselves more and more. And I think a lot of the success depends on your ability to reflect and do introspection in terms of what we're trying to achieve. Simple philosophy, but I think it's quite important. From our perspective and I also think it's important to, once again an analogy, to understand which mast do you want to hang your flag on. And as a business, we decided to hang our flag on the Abasa mast. We believe we can make a difference by partnering with the right partners, particularly the Business Forum capacitate that, because we don't have necessarily the same level of knowledge and insight that other members of the panel have. And we said, how can we leverage what we have the best? So in this spirit of going together, I think it's important to self-reflect, but it's also important to decide which are the masts that you want to hang your flag on and back those and capacitate that effectively. And hopefully through that, make a meaningful contribution in terms of building sustainable, great, diversified companies.
Right. Thank you. We are out of time, so I'm going to ask if anybody has got any closing remarks. And if not, I'd like to thank you for being part of this panel. The discussions have been robust, very insightful, and definitely a clear indication that more work needs to be done in this ED space. Maybe even an enterprise development indaba, because this is an indaba, essentially, that we still need to unpack. But thank you very much for availing your time.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're going to take it.
Thank you so much to our panelists. What a riveting discussion. A lot of points need to be considered, and I concur with Ubabnduna. Maybe there is a need for an enterprise development in Daba. And let's see what our black SME firms can do collaborating in their endeavors. I don't want to be the person that stands between you and your food, because as you can see, I love food. I will give the house an hour to please go outside. They have been refreshments prepared for all of you, and we will converge at exactly 2:30. Thank you so much for being well behaved. Enjoy, and I'll see you in 60 minutes.